Ahoy and welcome back once again to the channel. For those of you new here, my name's Gary. I like watches, and if you're here watching this, you probably like watches too, and you're probably familiar with the super affordable Chinese watch brand Addiesdive. And if you're not, well, you will be by the end of this video, because I've got one to show you in today's video, and I think they are probably one of the best or most improved watch brands, I'll say, throughout sort of 2023, 2024. They've been getting quite a lot of attention recently for their super affordable watches being beautifully finished. The list of specifications is always really, really strong, and I have posted some really quite positive videos recently on their watches, and they've just sent me one of their latest releases. And I think there's a couple of weaknesses. It is, again, a super affordable watch, so we shouldn't be setting our expectations too high, but when you compare this watch to perhaps some of their other recent watches, I don't think they've quite reached that level. So it's a sports watch, an all stainless steel sports watch, housing an automatic movement, the NH35, with a very nice dial, actually. This green dial, sunburst dial, very reflective. There's lots of light play on this dial. Yeah, that looks pretty premium, actually. Really nice piece of crystal on this watch as well. Double domed sapphire crystal like this isn't cheap. James and I found that out when we were trying to decide on the specifications for our watch a few years ago. Maybe the price of sapphire crystals has dropped a little bit, but compared to flat sapphire crystal, double domed in particular is quite a bit more expensive, and I wonder if this is the reason why we're seeing one particular weakness actually on this watch, and I'll show you that in a moment. But yeah, 316L stainless steel, 100 meters of water resistance, screw down case back, screw down crown. I've already taken the macro shots and filmed the lume degradation clip. The lume is pretty good, actually. It doesn't degrade too much. Those applied indices, they're a little bit soft on the corners. They're not super crisp. Again, we have to remember we are dealing with or looking at a very affordable watch. I think it's just over £100, £110 on their .com website, and they're offering a 20% discount at checkout. So I think it's about £88. So we are definitely dealing with a sort of $100, $110 watch. We shouldn't expect the world. But again, as I've already said, some of their other watches that cost as much as this are perhaps finished a little bit better, although the polishing on the side of the case is actually very, very nice. Very smooth, very flat. I'm not seeing that sort of streaking or ripply effect in the reflections. The bezel is nice. You've got dual facet reflective hands, so they're not giving you sort of one-dimensional hands. There's a bit of light play on those hands, and of course on those applied indices as well, and with that reflective dial and the polished surfaces on the bezel and on the outside of the watch, there is some light play on this watch. It's good to look at for sure. And it's in a style that's very, very popular these days. Almost every brand is now producing these sort of all-day, everyday stainless steel, I'm going to say it, Garda watches. I know some people don't like that phrase. It stands for go anywhere, do anything. And yeah, this watch is just, it's one of those watches, isn't it? It's a little bit reflective and a bit sort of fancy, but then it's an all stainless steel, sort of durable watch with a decent water resistance rating. It's a Garda, I'm going to say it again. Garda, that's 3 times now. Now, while I was zooming into the watch to have a look at this watch under the macro lens, I was a little bit disappointed actually with the amount of dust and debris under the crystal. You always expect to see some, especially when you're zooming in like this, but I'm seeing more than I would normally see. And when you're seeing it with a macro lens, it's not the end of the world, of course, because you may not see it day to day with the naked eye. But yeah, I've taken this watch outside and had a good look at the dial and the watch and the crystal, and I can see some of those specs with the naked eye. And of course, once you see them, you can't unsee them. So I'm a little bit disappointed with that. It's a little bit like movements, though, isn't it? Dust and debris. Every watch is different, so I shouldn't really judge this model on this particular example, but of course it's important that I still point it out. The big disappointment I have with this watch is actually the clasp, and it's not the worst clasp in the world. It's not really going to affect your wearing experience. I think the issue I have is that they've put better clasps than this, milled clasps, on watches that they sell for less. And one of the reasons I think they've used this clasp, and I'm just guessing here, is that they've put double domed sapphire crystal on this watch, and so they need to claw back in order to get it into that sort of price bracket that they like for these sort of watches. I think they've sacrificed the clasp for that crystal. Let me know, guys, in the comments section, what would you rather have? Flat sapphire crystal with a milled clasp, or a pressed clasp like this with a piece of double domed sapphire crystal? This crystal does make the watch 13 millimeters thick. Yes, it adds a bit of character to the watch, but it does make it a little bit chunky, and yeah, you end up with this clasp. I suspect if they'd have put the milled clasp on it, it would have been a few pounds or a few dollars more expensive. I think they should have done it, to be honest. Maybe asked for a little bit more money. When they're selling other watches cheaper than this, and those watches have the milled inner elements to the clasp, yeah, it just makes you feel a little bit more disappointed when you see this clasp on this watch. So look, overall, it is a nice watch. The specifications are generally strong. The finishing is nice. You've got split pins in the bracelet, solid end links, solid links, decent outer shell, it's signed, double pushers, a safety latch, decent loom, beautiful dial, NH35, date window at the 3 o'clock. There's not a lot to complain about, really. It's just that clasp sort of, I don't know, leaves me feeling a little bit disappointed. What do you think, guys? Let me know in the comments section. Nice looking watch, though, for sure.